Hello, EctoSage here on the Sage channel. I'm here today to go ahead and show you guys a new little bunker I tossed together. Actually, I think this might be the first bunker I've tossed together and actually shown. I've built a few little bunkery things over the years since planets have been added, never actually showed them off. This one, though, I loaded up the world today and figured I'd go ahead and make myself a spaceship, and just sort of ended up digging into the Earth. So I'll go ahead and give you guys a little tour of this place. We'll do it all from our character too, instead of spectator mode. We'll spectator at the end. I actually started out with this sort of structure in front of us, just an antenna thing here, because I wanted a place to keep track of, so I'd have somewhere to come back to as I was building stuff. But decided to go ahead and have a power room there. You can't actually go into it, but it's got a cargo container on the side there, and a little access port at the top. Decided to stick in a little bunkery room here. And I actually have airlocks on all this because, of course, now in the game, you can see our oxygen's low since we're so high up in the mountains. So I went ahead and made all these nice little pressurized bunker rooms here. And unfortunately, it does bump you off your feet, which is a little infuriating. But, ta-da, you can see a nice little bunker room here. It's actually pressurized. And you can see I've put lots of metal and stuff behind the walls. That way it actually counts as a pressurized environment. Because the stone itself obviously doesn't pressurize you. But I can go ahead and hide stuff behind the mountain's walls. So you get this sort of natural stone cave bunker thing mixed together. Anyway, this is just pretty much one little room tied into everything else via only the conveyor system down there. Nothing else. It's just sort of a room to be on its own, like two people might sleep up here, work here, and then go out to maintenance all sorts of other things. Sort of a skeleton crew set up. Heading away from there, we have our communications tower. It's just a big empty structure with some random geometry here to hold it all together. The reactor I already mentioned, which does have its slight cut into the snow, so you'd be walking down here to do any maintenances or anything on this access point. I love the idea if this game ever had huge snowstorms of just having to shelter in some of this. Over here we have another lovely little bunker room. We can stick ourselves right in here, pop through this door, unfortunately, once again. Thrown into the air, but you can see this one heads down into a nice little workspace here, so other people could be working from here. Nice lovely little vent, keeping it all functional and oxygenated. Lovely little space. I quite like the idea of having NPCs or something standing down there running things. Back onto the surface world. Once again, getting tossed about a little bit, unfortunately. We can go ahead and head into this structure here, which I'm going to use our jetpack and fly over the cliff. And you actually see this one sticks out the side a little bit here, as well as another vent thing here. This is actually a vent set to pull oxygen in, since even though the atmosphere is low here, you can still pull oxygen from it to pressurize the interior rooms. Anyway, this thing here, if we were to fly around over to here, is actually a reactor area. So we can pop this door open and head inside here. Ta-da! And once again, this is a pressurized space, even though you end up with a lot of stone. It is indeed pressurized, and we have two reactors in here to keep the base up and running. These are the two main reactors, as well as, of course, that third one we had seen. So a lot of the stuff is actually shockingly close to the surface so far with the bunker. Hey, we actually, okay, I was about to say didn't get pushed out like that. If we go ahead and, we'll check that one in a second. I think there's one more structure we want to head first by running up here past one of the laser defense turrets. There's only really one on the surface. You're not going to find much defense actually on the surface of this place. Another vent to go ahead and ensure there's enough oxygen being pulled down into the facility below all these rooms. Once again, another vent. I got tons of these little things speckled about. We can run down here though, and this is actually going to be the assembler structure. And you can see this one starts going down underground a little bit more than the previous one. So we actually end up running quite far down, and then it ends up reaching back up a fair amount where you can see tons of assemblers in here. Well, I say tons. We got 4 of them with power efficiency things hooked up on them. And a little control panel, so we can at least have some control and access to everything. You still realize while we're offered up all the control panels here, we wouldn't actually be able to access them without something down here. Oh, and by the way, once again, this is all sealed off, and the vent is actually hidden down below this floorboard here. A little hard to see, but it is down there, keeping everything wonderfully pressurized. Let's go ahead and head back out of here. Might as well just turn our jetpack on now, since it's eventually, gonna throw us like that. I think we'll fly up, just so you can see all the little oxygen points where it's pulling oxygen down into the bunker and all the little tiny openings. I'm quite happy with the way most of this came along. We can then go ahead down to this little bunker entrance right over here, which is actually, and we'll get back to those two in a second, but this one is actually a secondary communications setup. So we got our antenna there, which is obviously very easily taken out if this place was ever to be bombarded. But we can go through these doors here. And you can see now we have a lovely massive hallway straight through the mountain. I even decided to have some of this stuff left out to make it look more actually like there's supports across our lovely ceilings, all the way down to this lovely door, and we'll use the antenna to actually access it. I believe I named it antenna bunker door, was it? Blast doors, there we go. And we can tell that to open up. Don't know why there was any pressurization shift, they're both pressurized, but ta-da! There's actually a second antenna in here with some serious defense, so that everything can stay, well, pretty well defended. You can see it's pretty far into the mountain, so if they try to bombard this antenna, they'd have to bomb their way all the way down to here, or they'd have to come through this way, and once they got through this door, then have to deal with all the turrets we have set up in here. It's kind of a dark room, but it is an interesting thing, I believe, personally. Anyway, enough of this. Almost looks like we're on a subway station right here, doesn't it? Anyway, enough of that. Let's go ahead, head back out this way, and pop you open. Thank you very much. And now we can start heading into the rest of the main bunker. So far, most of the rooms and doors we've been through led to rooms that were just on their own. Stuff that's not really connected to the rest of the facility. This area here is the start of basically the main facility, where once we get past this dang annoying pressurizing door that knocks us off our feet, even though it should be a small amount of pressure, you see we have two refineries stuck right down in here. So if you want to use this as a starting point, you could actually go ahead and load this swirl up and start it as a starting point. You might have to go exploring pretty far to find any resources, though. I don't know of any that are right nearby us, but this place is designed to actually function as a easy start base pretty much. Be wary though, you are going to have slightly limited resources. And of course, a lot of rooms like this where it's just an idea that maybe a few people would sleep here in the bunker spaces and a few people would work here, all designed to work on pretty scant crew. If there is a serious need for the bunker to be used, you'd probably be going down this way right here, which that shouldn't have needed to do that, but either way, it's done now. And through this door. And now we're going to be heading quite a bit farther underground here. As you can see, it's actually quite a ways down into the earth now. Why? I've opened these doors earlier. There should have already been air in here. There we go. And once we're here, if you're an enemy, well, you might have gotten your brains blasted out, because we do have a turret to defend this spot. Ventilation as well. And then we're into the main living area of the station. So behind each of these doors, you got yourself a little work area here, and these, I believe a few of these are just offices like that one. Yep. So just nice little tiny work offices. I say nice and tiny, they're a bit oppressing. I was listening to the audiobook version of 1984, George Orwell's book, so it might have inspired me a little bit to make things slightly more oppressing than I otherwise would have. Yeah, definitely a lot of Big Brother going through my mind while I was building this. Anyway, you do also get to the actual sleeping areas where you get a nice little desk and one lovely little bed in a corner. And every room does have its own light and vent. So everything should be hunky-dory even if part of the station is depressurized. And we can carry down our underground passageways to more and more of these rooms, which are all pretty much the same. Very dark, tiny little rooms that you would be living in as the surface world was bombed into oblivion. I need to do one more thing before I put this up on the Steam Workshop, which is add one more reactor down here somewhere. But once it's up on the Steam Workshop, it will have that one more reactor. So even if the surface world is annihilated, this deeper bunker will survive. That's also another way down into here, a more direct way, where you bypass the refineries. We'll get to that in 1 second. Just wanted to carry on this way. Almost starting to remind me of Stargate SG-1 here with this area, with the nice lights and the longer, slightly less oppressive hallways. But behind each of the doors, you still find a singular bed and a singular desk in a mostly cave-like environment. So, again, not the most comforting place to live or work. Anyway, you've seen all of that. You get the gist of what is behind each of these doors. We'll now go ahead and head up that other stairwell before coming back down, and there's actually one more passageway we can take to go even farther underground. Dag nabbit, silly oxygen thing. Just wanted to show you guys where this comes up. So there's a little control room we were just in. Once again, another turret to defend it if anybody comes down this way into the base. But if we were to head right here, you can see leads us out of the mountain. Right here. So that's that other little one right there buried into the side of the mountain, or the hill, as you like. So all that is buried down pretty well. Let's go ahead. We're going to try to rush now down into the lower sections of the facility. A lot of darker areas here. Before it goes up on the Steam Workshop, like most of these things, it'll just be a world file this time. I might add one light there, and then, of course, like I mentioned earlier, a reactor to at least somewhere down here. Because, of course, it doesn't do you much good if all your reactors are on the surface and they're taken out and you're properly found, well, stuck down here with a limited oxygen supply. That's just another one of those doors. It is right up here on the right. There we go, this door. Another double seal, since it leads to a completely different section. And you can see this leads once again farther down, down, down. And we actually have another security door here, where we have another laser defending it. And this one will once again have to view nice little access here with, I believe I called it control room. The last door. Yep, there we go. Tell this one to open on up. And you can see right away it actually leads down even farther into the earth. So this one does take you down pretty dang far. And when I put a reactor in, I'll be putting it in way down here. So it'll be the last thing that will probably be taken out. And you can see I do have a control panel set up right here behind this window to actually open it and close that door, since it's a slightly bigger door than the last place. And another blast door right here. So even if this room's compromised, presumably the control panel will be taken out as well. You wouldn't exactly be able to get into this area immediately. Anyway, heading down here, we do have the main control area with an oodle of screens. Once again, I was sort of channeling some of that Big Brother vibe of maybe a huge control room. The book never seems to mention anything quite like that, but it was also what was going through my mind. And I think it makes almost a, well, sort of underground overlord sort of feeling to everything down here. With lots of exposed stone, but also, well, the most metal you've seen out of everything here. More than enough control space for people to be looking away at screens for hours on end. Anyway, leaving this area, we have the main control hall where the upper class peoples would be sleeping. So 3 little dark rooms I have right here. I'll go ahead and put some lights in here. I seem to have forgotten those before it goes up in the workshop. But simple rooms here. 3 of them for 3 of the highest priority people that you might find. Kindly open door. Simple rooms, but rather nice compared to the other ones where you have slightly higher ceilings and more metal on the walls than just standard stone. One more right there, obviously. And then behind us we have this door, which is actually the main computer core. Ta-da! Because what base is complete without having some programmable blocks and timers? So you can go ahead and set these up to your liking in this little tiny, fairly heavily armored room. So you could even set this up to monitor stuff on those screens. Part of the idea of this place is that once you're locked down here, you would be using that antenna, mainly the defended one, to continue to communicate with the outside world via remote control systems and such. So you could be locked down here relatively safe, and the outside world would, well, be a nightmarish war zone. Over here we have the idea that anybody who was working in the upper areas would now be down here, as well as anybody else who was just immediately assigned down here, working in a lovely little, almost library-esque work area. And then they would have their own lovely little sleep room over here where it could maybe, well, there's not exactly enough bunks for all of them, but there's a fair few bunks here. So you probably have a few people that were, well, just sleeping on the floor if you really got stuck down here. We also do have an oxygen supply center here, so that if all of the vents on the surface get taken out, there will be some oxygen supply stored here to keep this area pressurized. Anyway, that's it for our main tour. Hold on, I did go ahead and add that reactor room too. Ta-da, reactor room. Good to go. These are off by default, by the way, in the save, and I did put 100 uranium in every reactor. So it's all ready for survival. That's it for our main tour. We'll pop into Spectator now, turn on our light, and go ahead and show you what this place actually looks like when we look at it through Spectator. It's kind of a nightmare. We'll pop into here, and you can see a lot of just cubes, because of course I needed to make a box around anything I wanted to pressurize, so I had to, well, make a big old cube, and then, well, dig it out. Luckily, the Spectator voxel tools make it very easy. But you can see it is a maze of just conveyor pipes and stuff stuck all over the place down here, trying to connect everything together, making sure we got tons and tons of piping. And some of this looks, well, like it doesn't go anywhere, but it'll connect into other things once it's inside for the most part. So everything should be hooked up completely together. Even the reactor room here, out the bottom of it, you can see we did have pipes that actually come down behind the refineries in the areas we couldn't see. So everything should be hooked up. Good luck maintaining any of that piping, though, if something goes terribly, terribly wrong, because obviously you'd have to dig it all out. They don't actually have access tunnels. This didn't really start out as something I intended to be so big. Like I said, I'd planned on building like a fighter or something, and I ended up just making a little base so I could have something near me while I was building, and it just kind of went from there. Yeah, so huge old place. Anyway, guys and gals, that is that. Thanks a bunch for watching. Hope you like this place. And as per usual, it'll be up on the Steam Workshop. I'll probably toss a reactor or a room for a reactor down in this area here or something like that. Maybe I'll bump out this wall really quick and toss one little room in there for a reactor or two. I'll stick some uranium in there, and yeah, I'll put it up on the Steam Workshop, so if you want to start it as an easy start or just as your own secret layer of doom, you're free to do so. Anyway, that is that. Thanks a bunch for watching, and I shall see you all next time. Ta-ta.